All right, we're live. This is Moshe Landman, Green Party candidate, currently for the U.S. Congress in Maryland's 6th District. Today we're talking about Greenland, as you can tell from the title. The situation regarding the United States and Greenland has transitioned from a rhetorical curiosity to a high-stakes political crisis. Uh, what's going on? Let me explain. Donald Trump returned to office last year, and his administration has moved to make the acquisition of Greenland an official national security policy, often referred to as a national security priority. Now, for some reason, after he went into Venezuela, if you notice how Trump operates, the president, he didn't really bring up Greenland that much. It was the press, while he was on the airplane, after talking about Venezuela while he did it, then they started talking about Greenland. So the press was thinking that, oh, Donald Trump's now going into other countries. So we remember you talked about Greenland, so are you going to go there too? I don't know if you noticed it, but the press, they need to be very careful, journalists, because he likes to feed off of what they're talking about. You need to give Trump time to actually work on his own things, and so they brought us back to Greenland. So therefore, I'm going to talk about it today. What does Greenland have to offer the U.S.? What does it have that we want? U.S. interest is driven by a combination of old world resources and new world technology needs, critical minerals and rare earths. Greenland holds some of the world's largest deposits of rare earth elements, neodymium, praseodymium, and critical minerals like lithium and cobalt. These are essential for everything from EV batteries to wind turbines to advanced military hardware. Everyone knows that EV is going to become the new standard. Hopefully, we get off of gas-based products in the home, your cars, airplanes, pretty much everything. So we're going to need EV batteries and all of these things, and that's lithium. We're going to need the rare earths as well. So on the one hand, that's good, but do we actually need to run the country rather than allow Greenland to maintain sovereignty? Energy reserves. Significant untapped offshore oil and natural gas reserves are estimated to exist in the Arctic waters around the island of Greenland. AI infrastructure. Recent reports suggest the U.S. is eyeing Greenland as a site for massive AI data centers. The island's natural frigid climate offers a free cooling system for the intense heat generated by AI processing. So all those plants that they're building in the U.S., the problem is these massive computing complexes would get very, very hot, and they need to be cooled. So now we have to pay to cool them down, which is just crazy. But if we put them there, and that's something that Mark Zuckerberg has been talking about, we put these massive data centers in cold places, Arctic, Canada, northern Canada, then that saves at least some of the cost. Of course, there's this massive, big argument about AI in general. It's taking up a massive portion of our electric grid. Is that a good thing? I've been working with a lot of AI. Even my script today is made by AI. The images, although those are still questionable in their quality or text. But additionally, let's get back to Greenland, contains roughly 20% of the world's fresh water locked in its ice sheet, an increasingly valuable asset as global water scarcity rises. Now, the problem with that is that ice sheet is melting. How are we going to turn that into water? That's kind of silly. The freshwater resources are going to be water that we have on land in freshwater bodies. So I don't think that's that important yet, unless we can figure out a way to capture it. Why does Trump want it? For the Trump administration, Greenland is viewed through the lens of America First dominance and the Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine, called the Monroe Doctrine, which means he wants to have power all over the Western Hemisphere for the next 3 years until he's finished. Arctic dominance to counter the Polar Silk Road ambitions of China and the heavy military buildup of Russia in the Arctic. So that's true. It's happening right now. Trump has stated that Greenland is currently covered with Russian and Chinese ships. I'm not sure if that's true, but I'm sure they're kind of making their way around that area. Security backing. Trump argues that Denmark is a tiny nation incapable of defending such a vast territory, famously mocking their defense efforts as having one more dog sled, while the U.S. requires a massive military footprint there. The thing is, there's a historical connection between Denmark, they call it the Vikings, remember? And they were in Iceland, and they made their way to Greenland as well. They've been there for 1,000 years. So it's difficult to say that we have any rights to this land, although I like the idea of it being either independent or maybe, the idea that Denmark, which is a country farther away than, let's say, Scandinavia, Sweden, Norway, Iceland, should own Greenland. I think that's also wrong. Maybe Greenland should be either independent, or we'll talk about other options. The geographic location. and the logic. The administration argues that because Greenland is in the Western Hemisphere, it naturally belongs under U.S. jurisdiction to ensure regional hegemony or hegemony. Now, you could also argue Canada should have it in that case. Why should the U.S.? What is the value and how would the U.S. pay? While no official price tag has been finalized for a total purchase, historical and economic models suggest a range. Estimated price, analysts have floated figures from $12.5 billion based on the adjusted price of the Virgin Islands, the U.S. Virgin Islands, to over $1 trillion when factoring in the potential value of mineral rights and strategic position. Now, the U.S. does not have $1 trillion. We could print it and pay for it, but that would be crazy. We would have to borrow more money. We're already negative $2 trillion this year. We have $38 trillion in debt. We can't afford to buy another country. We can't afford to do anything, to be honest with you. And Trump wants to raise the military budget to $1.5 trillion. We have it at $1 trillion. Again, we're negative $2 trillion a year with $38 trillion in debt. The U.S. is in trouble. I've had them. You can look at my other companies, Maryland Metal. We talk about why precious metals are rising and what's going on in the U.S. The dollar, even though it's a paper money, is a kind of a game. It doesn't mean anything, but it does, because we used to have real money called gold and silver, and now we owe all this money. We have to pay it back. The global system works on the dollar, so we're going to have to figure out a way to get out of this hole. Now, how do we pay for Greenland? In the past, U.S. offered $100 million in gold in 1946, so we did offer, which would be worth a lot more now. Current discussions include an outright cash purchase, a land swap involving other territories, I don't think that'll happen, or a compact of free association, COFA, where the U.S. provides massive economic subsidies in exchange for total control over defense and foreign policy. What has happened so far? Policy planning. In January of this year, the White House confirmed it is actively drawing up plans for acquisition, including diplomatic and economic measures. Military threats. The administration has explicitly stated that the military option is always on the table, a comment that gained weight following recent U.S. military actions in Venezuela. And the Greenlandic response. Greenland's Prime Minister, Jens Frederik Nielsen, has repeatedly said Greenland is not for sale. However, a pro-independence movement in Greenland is also navigating how to gain sovereignty from Denmark without simply being swallowed by the U.S. So another option could just be Greenland moves forward with trying to become independent. We help them do that, and that the U.S. is part of that. They'll allow us to, be partners in getting resources, helping them govern, and maybe having some Americans move there if the ice keeps melting. As there's going to be a lot of nice places to live in Greenland. So that's another idea. What do Europe and Denmark have to say? The reaction from allies has been one of unprecedented alarm. Denmark Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen has called the threats unacceptable and warned that any U.S. attempt to take Greenland by force would mean the end of NATO, because Europe's in NATO, and that would be a violation of Denmark's sovereignty and a serious violation of NATO. European Union major powers, including France, Germany, and the UK, issued a joint statement in January of 2026 affirming that Greenland belongs to its people. There are internal discussions about sending European solidarity troops to the island to deter U.S. aggression. Wow, so now we're going to have a conflict between the U.S. and the European Union, as if Trump hasn't done enough with the tariffs. The NATO crisis. The situation has created the most significant rift in the alliance's history, as NATO is designed to defend members against external threats, not the territorial ambitions of its own leader. That would be Donald J. Trump. So we really have a crisis, and overall, my opinion is the U.S. doesn't need to own it, just needs to, if it wants to have some of the resources, make a deal with the locals, help them become independent. We gain access, but they should be able to sell to whoever they want to sell to. And in terms of military strategic locations, we need to work directly with China and Russia, stop the wars, and tone down the military activities and reduce our military budgets, remove nuclear weapons, get to a peaceful focus on peace and security, and understand that there's a history here with the communists. But we need to reshape the entire world order, and NATO as a body focusing just on Europe and U.S. is not a good idea if we want to have a global community. We just need to get rid of NATO, in my opinion. United Nations, we have strengthen the UN, strengthen its powers. A country like U.S. should not be able to just go into Venezuela at the same time. We need a body so that if there is a Maduro, the UN should have already taken action as a criminal, violating international law, to bring him to a court possibly in an action just like Trump did, but bring him to international criminal court. He should have been brought there 10 years ago for what he did, and then help an international force should have gone in. A new election should have been made, and everything could have been in a better situation. So that's my opinion, Moshe Lamon. I am a candidate for the United States Congress in the Maryland 6th District that goes from here all the way to the west. I did want to mention that this video has been brought to you by Maryland Medicinals. www.marylandmedicinals.us is a natural health store based on Ayurvedic and TCM principles. Everything that we sell here is holistic and natural, no animal products at all. We have over 450 products on our eBay store and online right now. Some of them we make, some of them are made overseas. We have no problem with that. We check all ingredients. And we also find great products like, if you can see back there, there's a ton of products, all natural from all over the place. So that's a sponsorship from a great organization, Maryland Metal, that I happen to run for health and wellness. Again, it's Moshe Lamon, Green Party. Have a wonderful day.